Mark.
I mean, he never.
Mark.
Yeah, but he never specifically ordered the attack on children and women.
So his soldiers performed an action of their own volition without contacting him.
That happened also with Khalid bin Walid. Like for example, when the conquering of Mecca happened, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Allahumma inni abra'u ilayka ma fa'al Khalid." I seek refuge to God from what Khalid has done.
Okay.
Companions can make mistakes.
But then the second time in that battle we're talking about currently, he didn't say that same thing. He said they reformed them. So he sort of dismissed the idea that they had killed women and children.
It wasn't. He said, "I did not order this."
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he rebuke them, say you were wrong for this or anything? Or just say, no, you're from them?
By saying, I did not order this, and this is a rebuke.
Well, no, it's a statement of fact. But he's not actually like criticizing their behavior.
No. A statement of fact can be, I did not order this. Or for example, saying with harshness, it depends on the tone.
Did he punish them? Did he like de-rank them or anything? Or just told them, okay, whatever, it is what it is? Okay.
I mean, the same thing with Khalid, he wasn't de-ranked either.
Fundamentally, you seem to accept the same thing that you're critiquing the Bible for when Muhammad does it.
No.
My takeaway would be that if you look at the entire Old Testament, things like slavery and the killing of women and children, whatever, are not things that are encouraged, but God can certainly provide punishment unto people with these things. Because, for example, the children of Israel are also taken into slavery by Babylon. And God is described as raising up Babylon to come and punish them for not following him. The view of slavery, even in the Old Testament, is not a good thing. It's not like a right or a privilege. It's a punishment.
Okay, forget about the idea of encouraging or not. In the Bible, there's a direct order. Like to even wipe out donkeys. Like God knows what the donkeys have done.
Okay.
The point being is that this is a total and clear extermination.
Okay.
This idea of ibadah, extermination, is no way. Like it's not Islamic.
So you're talking about an event that occurred, right, in the Old Testament, but you have the same exact event occurring in your Quran.
Where?
For example, if you look at so right in the Bible, right before this happens, right, there are slaves in Egypt. Right?
Slaves in Egypt? Okay.
The children of Israel are slaves in Egypt, right?
Yeah.
Your Quran talks about this in Surah 43. Like I think it's like from verse 46 to 55. It talks about the idea. Huh?
Okay.
No, there's no war verses at all there.
What?
Can you read the verse?
No. This is not war verse. You're talking about killing women and children donkeys, right?
It doesn't exist.
Oh, hold on. Allah supposedly drowns the entirety of Egypt because after bringing Musa there with his miracles, Pharaoh laughed at him and told him that if he was from God, he should have come there with angels and clad in gold. And everyone agreed with Pharaoh, so Allah drowned them all. So now, when Allah drowned, just literally look at Surah. You bring it up, right? It's in Surah 43, right? Surah 43, 46 to 55. So Allah drowns them all. Now, when Allah drowns them all, is he drowning donkeys and kids and men and women?
I mean, look,
ultimately, he is.
As for
he's talking about divine punishment. He's not talking about Sharia punishment.
Yeah, I mean.
So go back to the command issue that you're talking about.
If you're having an issue with God, with God commanding people to go and kill certain individuals or exterminate people who have wronged God, right? You have to also keep in mind that God does the same thing back to these same people when they disobey Him.
Divine judgment versus human God.
Okay, so the distinction that has to be made was, for example, like with Noah's flood.
Yes.
Or with the flood, for example, the flood here mentioned
in Surah 43. Yes.
So this is like a divine punishment, like where God is wiping them out. But here you're talking about a punishment for a certain group of people.
Because God is ordering it, so it will still be divine punishments.
Yeah, but God here, as you mentioned,
he's carrying it out.
Yeah, like in the case of Noah's flood and the flood that occurred with the Egyptians, here God is actually the one who's carrying out the action. But what was the case of the Amalekites and the other groups that were massacred? Those were human beings that were told to go out and wipe them out.
But it is still a judgment from God. So divine means things of God. So if God is the one ordering it, it doesn't matter if it's like fire from heaven, a flood, or human beings.
The people of Noah, or the people of Moses at the time that were wiped out this way, they were the actual perpetrators, right?
The same thing with the Amalekites. They were against God and His people.
Descendants of but they're also the descendants of people who what's it called?
So they themselves were not like, okay, so they themselves were not completely distinct from those people who they descended from. The people who they descended from hated God, and so did they. And the Bible even says that God will revisit the sins of the fathers upon the third and fourth generation for those who hate Him. So if your ancestors hated God and you still hate God today, you can still be liable for that punishment.
Well, even the sheep, camels, and donkeys.
Again, your God apparently drowned Egypt, killed the people of Lot. I'm sure they had sheep. I'm sure they had camels. I'm sure they had donkeys. So why is it when Allah does it's fine?
Are you speaking to others now?
You were doing it first, so please calm down.
No, I don't mind. Do you want to speak
I
to
don't
me?
mind either.
Do you want to speak to me?
What do you want? Are we done? Or do you want Homeboy to go ahead?
They're very good.
You want to take over?
Yeah, let me just say a couple of words to him. I've never met him before. They told me to come to him and speak to him.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
But it was a really interesting discussion. I really appreciate it.
Fair enough. But when Allah does it, it's cool. But then when God does it in the Bible, it's not cool.
No, because our issue
all.
with this is that you're making like a false equivocation. Because
Okay.
one example is like basically a total damnation being sent down from Allah Azza wa Jalla, from God.
Okay.
And the other example is like a had or a corporal punishment being carried out by human beings.
Okay. So you're gonna.
That's like me, for example.
Okay.
Let's say I go to let's say I go to Holland and then I go to the red light district and all these people are sinners.
Okay.
Then I go and I pick up random kids and whatever. I'm stoning you as well. I'm lashing you as well, and making this like a complete kind of.
But in that instance, it is you doing this of your own volition. Allah sending you to do it, correct?
No, Allah ordered to punish adulterers and fornicators.
Okay.
Yeah, so Allah is ordering it. But what I'm doing is I'm making like a willy-nilly. Everyone's getting a go. Everyone's getting punished.
Okay. Well, that's not what's occurring here in the Bible.
How not?
God is
Children.
distinctly telling them
Yeah, and
to go and wipe them out.
Yeah,
So it doesn't matter from our paradigm if God chooses to perform this action via a divine flood or fire and brimstone from heaven, or by sending people to go and do it. If God has the authority to enact the action, then it's all good with us.
Okay, so can I take over from here? Is that all right? Okay, that's a very interesting kind of taxonomy that you've created for yourself. Yeah, where you're saying that basically what Allah does or what God does in terms of His punishments that He carries out Himself is equivalent to the imperatives and the commands that He gives in the Bible or the Quran and in the Scripture. You've conflated between the two categories.
Wait. That's not what I said.
Okay, what is what you said?
I simply said this. It doesn't matter when God is carrying out a punishment, if He does it via a divine flood or fire and brimstone, or if He orders people to do it. Ultimately, if the actions of God are being carried out in the area of punishment, then it is still valid because these same people that we're talking about, the Israelites, the Bible talks about thousands of years after this event occurred, that God raises Babylon to punish them. So if God is capable of acting divinely to raise a nation to come and punish His chosen people, then God can still carry the actions out using people as the conduits, even if it doesn't require Him sending down fire from heaven.
Is there a category distinction between an imperative that God gives to human beings to carry out versus the things that He carries out directly, or not?
I mean, obviously there is a distinction.
Is there a distinction?
Because one is a first-hand carrying out by God, and the other one is through a proxy, like a human being, for example.
Okay.
But they are still both from God, so they're still valid.
Accepted that it's both from God. We think everything is from God, yeah?
Everything.
Yes, everything is from God. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Everything, you don't will except that God wills, right? So we do believe that everything goes back to the will of God. That's why we say inshallah, mashallah, all those words, meaning the will of God is always in everything, right? We do agree with that.
Even cannibalism?
Pardon? Yes, everything is good and the bad, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all
we
right.
believe that everything goes back to the will of God. Nothing happens except through the will of God. That's not something.
The bad? Ooh, that's a bit of a problem.
That's not a problem because that's something which Christians also accept.
We don't.
In fact, especially if you go into the Calvinist school of thought, it's even more pronounced. They talk about divine predestination. Calvin wrote a whole tract on it. I can give you the references.
I am not a Calvinist, first of all.
No problem.
And I'm not even sure Calvinists would hold to the idea that evil comes from God.
Of course they do. They mention it. Augustine mentions it in his book. I don't think you know your tradition very well. Let's go back to the point, though.
Can you bring it down and show me that, please?
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Isaiah 45.
No, but it's fine. It's fine.
Mention
It's fine.
Yep.
Sorry. Let me just answer it.
You want to read? Go ahead.
What I'm saying to you now if you've studied the basics of Christian doctrine,
The basics, you say?
yeah, the basics of Christian
Okay.
doctrine. Ask you the question: what is the differentiation between Arminianism and Calvinism?
I am familiar with Arminianism.
Oh, so there you have it. You don't know the basics.
No,
of
wait,
your
but
doctrines.
hold on now. Calvinism
Why
is
you
a
making
relatively
no
new
sense?
idea.
Because it's not involved in the conversation.
Wait a
It's just
second.
completely changed the
Calvinism is a
conversation
relatively new
halfway through.
idea.
Stay on
So
the same
how
topic.
would
Don't move
how
on
would
topic. I'm not triggered.
You're
I'm just saying, stay on topic.
over here?
So what's the difference between
Over
Arminianism-
here,
what's the difference
over
between-
here.
what is
What?
the difference
Pause.
between Arminianism and Calvinism?
How
and
does that
modalism?
involve?
Ask me that.
Wait, you're bringing in modalism now.
Modalism.
Modalism. Calvinism
Yeah,
is a
go
relatively
on.
new idea.
Tell me
So
what's
how,
the differentiation between
how
those two
can
things?
that be the foundationalism of Christianity
I'm
if
not
it's a
saying
relatively new idea?
I didn't say that.
You just said 1 second ago
No, I've just
that
asked you a
I don't know
question.
the foundations of my faith,
Yeah,
and then you just
when it
brought
comes
up
to the will
Calvinism.
Excuse me. When it comes to the will of God, there are three main schools of thought in Christianity.
Okay.
All right, they are Calvinism, okay, represented by John Calvin, Modalism, represented by Monila, and Arminianism. I'm asking you, since you're talking about the will of God and the actions carried out by Him, tell the audience, the Muslims here and the non-Muslims and all that, what is the differentiation between all these three schools of thought?
I have not looked into them.
You haven't looked into, so you don't know.
Well, yes, I don't. I don't.
You don't know?
I'm aware of the Calvinist school of thought, but not the
So
modalism
you
and
haven't
the
studied
Arminianism.
it.
Studied the other two? No, I have not.
You
But
haven't-
again,
so good.
what does that have to do with the idea
Excuse me.
that you just said
Excuse me.
that everything comes from Allah,
Yeah, I'll tell you.
including evil?
I'm asking
So
you a
that
question.
means that you have an
I'm
evil
answering
God.
I'm answering your question. Excuse me. Let me finish this. Let me answer your question.
I just want to read this.
Is your God evil or not evil?
Let me finish.
Well, I mean, you can jump in because he was talking when you were talking.
This is the last thing I'm going to say.
Feel free.
I know you do wanna circumnavigate these questions.
You
If I
were
was
there.
not gonna do the same
You
thing.
were there
were
talking
you,
to
I'm gonna do
him.
the same thing.
You were there talking to him when he was speaking.
No, but I was.
So
he was
now
welcome- he's welcoming
grant him
it.
the same courtesy.
No, I don't need to.
I'm going to cite one verse and I'm going to leave.
Go on. Go ahead.
Okay, God in the Bible says in Isaiah 45, I am the Lord and there's none else. I form the light and create darkness. I
Yep.
make peace and create evil. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Bro.
Oh, hold on a second there. But before you run away, does that say that God is the origin of evil or God can create evil? Two different things.
Okay, so let's go back to the point.
Let's hear it.
You're talking. You asked the question. I
Is
said
your
that-
God evil?
No, I didn't say. That's not what you asked.
I just
Everyone
asked that now.
No, you didn't ask that question.
What's the
before.
question?
I said to you before, right? Everything goes back to the will of God, and I
Okay.
quoted a verse in the Quran that says, "We're going to shout
So does that include evil?
Let me finish.
Okay,
I
go
said,
for
from
it.
one perspective, you can't say that everything goes back to the will of God. Then you said, then you started making it an Islam
Cannibalism, right? Yeah.
You made the cannibalism example. And I told you it's not an Islam specific issue. And I said to you, why is that the case? If you look at Christianity, there's three distinct schools of thought. Okay, and these three schools
There's
of
probably more, but okay, sure.
no, there are, of course there's more, but these are the three main ones that scholars speak about in the academy, for example, right? There's three distinct schools of thought: Calvinism, Modalism, and Arminianism.
And in Islam, because again, we're talking about Islam. You said
Okay.
everything goes back to Allah.
Yeah.
I asked you, does cannibalism go back to Allah?
Yeah,
And
okay.
you said yes.
In
So,
one sense, it does. And so in Calvinism, the same thing applies. In Arminianism, look, you have to understand. In Modalism, it does as well.
so you're going to answer a question
So look,
to
this
do
is
with
not- this is-
Islam
you don't understand.
with modalism.
The problem is this: is that the issue is I'm speaking to a Christian and he doesn't even know his own religion.
Again,
That's the
I am
issue.
asking you,
Look,
is Allah evil? Because you
we don't
said
believe Allah is
you
evil.
said the
Allah's not
good
evil.
and the
Excuse me,
evil go
comes
back to
from-
Allah.
yeah, comes back.
So if Allah is
Yeah.
the origin of good and evil,
Okay, excuse
is he
me.
good?
Let me answer your question, right? Since you don't know what you're talking about, let me answer your question.
Okay, well,
All right,
you said the origin,
Yeah, no,
so
since you don't know
either
what you're
use
talking
better
about-
words
since
or
you
be more
don't-
specific.
Okay, you don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So let me just.
And did you
excuse
misspeak
me.
just now?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so
you wanna listen?
just to confirm,
You wanna listen? 'Cause you're
good
uneducated,
and
clearly.
evil
He's
come from
uneducated.
Allah.
Look, you're
Good and
look,
evil come
would
from
you like
Allah.
me
Is
to
that
answer your-
correct?
Yeah, we believe that.
Awesome. Okay.
Can I-
So Allah is
What
good,
is this?
correct?
What is this? It's a monologue.
Allah is good,
Are you
correct?
afraid? Are you triggered?
Hold on.
Are you afraid
Allah
that-
is good, correct?
Yeah, he doesn't want me to talk.
No, simple. Allah is good, correct?
Do you want to time it?
Because he's the origin
Do you
of
wanna time
goodness.
it? Do you want to time it?
What do you guys want? Timing or not?
Yeah, time it. If you say your
Yeah.
thing, I say my thing. If you
Okay.
can't have the conversation,
Fair enough.
Okay,
keep
What
doing the
you
dialogue, keep
want?
doing the
Two.
dialogue.
I'll give you one more chance. If you can't handle
What
it,
do you
we'll
want? No,
talk.
if you want to tell me one time, that's fine.
We'll do one more chance, and if you can't speak properly, let
Okay.
me speak and then
So
finish. And I'll let you
I
speak
go
and finish.
first. Again, is
Go ahead.
Allah good?
Yes, we believe Allah.
Because he's the origin of goodness,
Yeah,
correct?
no,
But-
no.
Okay.
You gotta answer the question.
Why is Allah good?
We believe goodness is one of the intrinsic attributes of God. He's al-Bar.
Awesome.
Good.
Now, evil comes from this goodness, correct?
No, we don't believe that.
But you just said that.
No, I didn't just say that. Let me
You
explain-
said that.
Let me explain what
Okay,
it
go ahead.
is. There's something called theodicy. Do you know what theodicy is?
Not familiar.
Not familiar. This is the problem. I'm
Oh,
excuse me.
wait.
Let me finish.
So all you can do
Let me
is
finish.
just quote a
Let me
description.
finish. No, let me finish.
Okay,
Let me
okay.
finish.
That's fine. We
Let me
can
finish.
play this game. We can play this game.
Let me finish.
We can play this game.
The problem is
All right.
this. The problem is I'm speaking to a person who has
That's
not
fine.
studied his own religion, has not studied the academic material on
Okay.
top. Theodicy are theories relating to evil and sovereignty and the will of God. Now let me tell you something, right? Theories of evil in religion. Augustine has written.
Islam.
No, it's not in Islam.
Islam. I asked you an Islamic question,
Yeah,
and you're quoting
I'm
Augustine.
explaining to you
Augustine, in case you didn't know, is not an Islamic scholar. So yeah, carry on. Islam.
Are you okay?
Islam.
Are you okay?
Islam.
Are you okay?
He is true though.
I'm waiting,
Are you okay?
right? Because if you ask me a question about the Bible, I'm not gonna quote Al-Albani for you.
What is Augustine's view on theodicy?
Again,
And evil.
Islam
What is his
is
view?
God evil. Please
I
go
said
ahead.
no. Do you understand English or not? Does
Okay.
this guy
All
understand
right.
English?
Awesome. Wait.
Okay, yeah.
Everyone listening.
What is evil?
So,
What is evil?
he just
What is
said
evil?
that good and evil come from
Yeah,
Allah.
what is evil?
I said, is Allah good? He
Yeah.
said, yes.
What
It's
is
the intrinsic
evil?
attributes.
So what is
and I
evil?
asked him
What is
then,
evil?
does the evil
What is evil?
come from
What is
Allah
evil?
who is good? And he says no.
Okay,
But
hold
don't
on.
forget,
What is-
his
I didn't-
earlier
no, I
point.
didn't say that.
Yes, you did say no.
No, hold on,
it's
hold
on camera. Everyone can
Let
see it
me
when you get
explain.
home. Pause.
do you want me
But
to explain my position
no,
or not?
that's fine. Go ahead. But he said that the evil does not come from Allah who is good. But then
not what I said.
prior to that, he said that
No, I
evil
didn't-
anger comes from Allah.
Let
Please
me
clarify.
explain myself. God, Allah is good. Yes, we believe that's an intrinsic attribute of God.
Okay, awesome.
What is evil? I take the view that evil is the lacking of good. It's deprivation. That's why I take the view. Privation.
Interesting.
That's the view that I take.
privation of
That's
good,
the same
okay.
view of Augustine and Thomas Aquinas and Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim.
Okay.
Yes, it's a view of, that's what I'm saying, it's a view in Christianity and a view in Islam. It's not an Islam specific issue. Excuse me, let me finish. So what is evil? Evil is the lacking of good. Like for example, you've got the sun that's shining light upon us, right? So good in this analogy would be the bright light or the rays. And evil would be the darkness that doesn't come about if there's no rays. That's my view on evil. So in other words, if you're asking me the question, does evil come from God? In one sense, of course it does, because God is responsible for all things that exist. But evil doesn't exist in my worldview. That's the point. Do you understand? Evil doesn't exist as a substrate. You can't put evil under a microscope. So going back to the point, if you're asking a question about does evil exist, so I'm saying to you, if there are theodicies in Islam and Christianity, both religions, which have different ideas. Within Islam, there's different ideas. Within Christianity, there's different ideas on evil and theodicy. This is not a point where you could basically have a different view to me and be in my religion, and you can have the same view and be in different religion. It's not a point that differentiates Christian from Muslim. Do you understand the point? What I'm responding to you by saying is, what you done is a category mistake fallacy. What you done when you were talking to the other guy was you're saying that it's the same if God carries out a punishment himself as it is if he commands it. I'm saying no, that's not. That's a category mistake fallacy. You are able to see and demarcate and distinguish between the two categories. If God tells me to go and not eat pork, for example, or not have sexual intercourse before marriage, that's a command. Do you understand? Whereas if he drowns people because they were disobedient, that's him carrying out judgment. I see a differentiation. Yes, both of them go back to the
Why
will of God.
can't God carry out judgment using people? Explain that for us.
What do you mean, why can't God?
Why can God not
not?
carry out judgment using people in the way he does using a flood or fire from heaven?
No, I'm not saying he doesn't.
And that's my point.
And I accept
So
that
what
point.
you're
I accept
seeing there
that point.
from the children
I
of
accept that- I
Israel
accept that
is
point.
God carrying
No,
out
I accept that
punishment
point. You made a good
using
point
them.
there.
That was all.
All you're saying is, from one perspective, everything goes back to the will of God. I'm saying, yeah, I accept that.
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
So no, but that's what you should be saying, because that's a more coherent way of saying it.
No, because then there are issues with that. So that's not what I'm saying.
Everything goes back to the will of God. How's that issue with that? That's something consensus in Christianity and Islam.
I don't know if you would frame it that way within
So you don't
Christianity.
think everything goes back
because-
to the Christian, the will of
So,
God?
when you say will of God, define what you mean by will of God. Are you speaking about God's desire or God's prevalence over all creation? What are you talking about?
When I say will of God, when I say will, I'm talking about the ability to choose A over B. I'm talking about the choice of God. I'm talking about the permission of God. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. So again, God's prevalence over all creation.
No, not necessarily. That's something else. I'm talking about the will of God. God can decide A over B. God can decide this or that. That's what God can decide. That tree can be green, it can be blue. That's the will of God. It's the will of God. It's in accordance with the will of God that the tree is green. It's not accordance with the will of God that it's blue. It's not blue.
So let's say
So nothing can be, is my postulation, nothing can be except through the will of God. That's my view. And that's the view of the vast majority of Christian scholars and the vast majority of Jewish scholars and the vast majority of theists.
Okay. So that's fine. Instead of creation, sure, we can see that God has
What's
a
the
prevalence
point
over
here
all
of
things.
this?
However, when it comes to actions,
Yes, okay, what about actions?
are you going to say
Yeah.
that nothing
It's not a
that,
Christian
that no action can be committed without the will of God.
Yes.
Ooh,
The
okay.
difference I would say is this: is that
And when you say will,
Yeah,
you're talking about providence here. No, not desire.
no
because
action.
within Christianity, for
God
example.
creates everything.
Okay,
We
but
believe- the Muslim position, let me tell you.
one second. Within Christianity,
Yeah.
we use the will of God to mean a number of things, including what God desires, for example,
With respect, you don't know
for
what
His
Christianity is.
creation.
With respect, with respect.
Pause.
Yeah, go on.
For His creation and what God desires us to do, and we use the will of God to encapsulate this idea. Now,
can I respond to
no,
that? Okay,
when it comes to actions that human beings can carry out, slavery, rape, whatever the case might be, these things are against the will of God, and that this is not God's desire for us.
Oh, I understand your point.
However,
I understand your point.
if you want to use the word will to mean purveyance, as in no action can be committed without God allowing, permitting, or willing it to be so, that's also something a little bit different.
So we do have that distinction. We have something called
Okay,
irada
so
shar'iyya.
now you do. Okay,
No,
awesome.
No, I understand what you're saying, but we don't
Okay.
put it in the way. Look, we have something called irada shar'iyya and irada kawniyya, which is like you've got the cosmological will and you have the legislative will.
I've heard about this recently.
Okay, so this is the cosmological will
Right.
is what God allows to happen in the universe.
Okay.
Whereas the shara'i or legislative will
Is what God deems for you to do.
Yeah, instructs people to do. And as a result of him instructing people to do that thing, okay, they either do it or not with their free will. Now, as I say, we believe in free will. Me and you both believe in free will as a concept.
Well, as a Muslim, it's a bit tricky, but sure.
What do you mean as a Muslim it's tricky? What you think it isn't?
No, because we don't.
So why do you have three distinct schools of thought?
People. No.
Why do you have Armenianism and Monism and Calvinism?
Again. These are not like massive schools of thoughts.
Yes, they are.
They're not held to by the majority of Christians.
What are you talking about?
These,
You don't even know what they are.
These are small,
What are they?
potentially Protestant sects.
What? No, they're not.
These are not. Okay, so for example, the schools you mentioned. Can you please tell me how many Christians globally hold to the idea?
We don't really know.
Okay, is it the majority?
Calvinism, in terms of Protestantism, it could be argued that the majority of Protestants are Calvinists. Could be argued.
I don't know
Could be
about
argued.
that.
But there's no survey that's been done. But what I do know is that there are institutes in America, like evangelical institutes, that do hold that position and teach it in their seminaries.
Okay,
Majority of them do.
again, this would not constitute the majority of
I
Christians.
don't know. I'm not saying I don't have a sociological
Okay,
study. Do you have it?
so when
But
it
it's one of
comes,
the-
however,
it's-
to
it's- in
Islam,
the academy,
unfortunately,
excuse me, in the academy, Calvinism is one of the biggest and most defended positions. Clearly, 100%.
again, I am not certain on that. I haven't done a survey.
William Lane Craig he defends the Molinist position, for example, yeah, and he mentions the prominence of the Calvinist.
That's one
position.
dude.
No, but he
That's
mentioned
one guy.
No, but from his experience as a Christian scholar, one of the greatest of his era, he's saying that actually the Calvinist position is one of the most prominent ones in Protestantism, and he argues against it.
Again, what
does he argue against it?
what you're making? No, I said it was relevant. I said it was not followed by the majority
Well,
of
no,
Christians.
nevertheless, even the
whereas
Molinist
within
positions-
Sunni Islam,
Excuse me, let me just say just one
okay,
more.
go ahead.
Even the Molinist position and the Calvinist position, and even the Armenian position, to a lesser extent, I will grant, all of them have the will of God attached to them. You cannot evade the will of God.
I have not looked into them, so I cannot
So
comment
why are you
on
commenting
their
then?
interpretation of the will of
So
God.
why- but
what
why are
I'm
you commenting
commenting on currently is that you said that we both believe in this.
In the will of
and
God?
no, in the will of God, in predestination. And
Yeah,
I am
of course
telling
we do.
you that it is worse within Islam.
What's
because
worse? What does worse mean?
Worse meaning that all of you, at least, I'm guessing you're Sunni Muslim, correct? Awesome. If you accept Sunni Hadith, you're going to have to accept the idea that God writes down what you're supposed to do before you were born.
Yeah, that's a biblical idea.
No. And then,
That's a biblical idea.
and then
Are you
he
serious?
also adds that you can do good
Okay,
deeds
okay.
all the days of
Now,
your life.
you're digging your own grave.
Pause.
You're digging your own
So
grave.
you're about a handspan away from entering heaven.
Okay.
And then what is written for you will overtake you,
Yeah.
and then you will begin to do the deeds of the people of hellfire
Yeah.
until you wind up in hellfire,
you're talking about.
and vice versa.
Okay,
So we don't hold
Yeah.
that God distinctly makes you so that you will go to hell and overrides
what we
your
believe,
free
though.
will
You're
so that you
misrepresenting our
will go
position.
to hell.
With all due
That's not
respect,
what we believe.
can I say
But that's
something?
what you guys believe. And unfortunately for
ahead,
you,
go ahead.
it's a Sunni position.
Okay,
so
excuse
you're
me.
going to have to say
You don't
that
know what the
compared
Christian
to
position is.
compared to
Would you admit to
Calvinism
this?
within Christianity, your
What is
belief
Calvinism?
your belief
What is
in
Calvinism?
predestination and how it overwrites your will is far more pervasive within Islam than it is in Christianity.
What I found disturbing about this conversation is here we have. Look,
Are you going to comment on what I said?
Yeah, I am.
Or
Can-
okay,
Can,
all
I
right.
tell you what I'm going to say? What I find
Sure thing, or just say it if you don't mind.
What I find disturbing about this conversation is that you openly and publicly admit to your ignorance of your own doctrines and the schools of thought they're in.
I'm waiting for you to explain
let me finish.
how you supposedly don't have a worse version of
Predestination.
predestination.
Haven't I let you finish? Let me finish.
Well, you interrupt me, I interrupt you back.
Okay.
If you want time, I'm fine with that. If you want time,
I think
go
it's
ahead.
best, but I don't. Once again, if you can't handle it, a normal conversation. Because
Likewise.
it's clear that you get triggered and then you need to get involved.
You do the
So let
same
me
thing,
finish.
so you also
Let
get
me
triggered and get involved.
Possibly.
Okay.
So let's go back to the point. The point I'm making is this: Calvinism, yes, is a stricter position when it comes to the sovereignty of God. Yes. Monalism.
Stricter than what? Sorry.
Stricter than monalism and Arminianism.
If you insist, I haven't looked into it.
Okay,
fair
great.
enough.
Okay, but what I'm postulating to you now, okay, the middle knowledge that Molina described and even people like Craig and so on are defending, has the will of God attached to it. Even Arminianism has.
In what sense? Sorry.
Has it, for example, in different senses. So if Jones educate you on this.
No.
Are you asking me to educate
Don't
you?
run from my idea. Again,
yeah,
very briefly, in
Yeah.
what sense?
All right. So the Calvinists have an acronym called TULIP. Have you ever come across it?
Okay. If you can't simply describe if this will of God you're speaking
you're
about.
asking me a question
No,
and you're not letting me finish
very
it.
simply.
You're not letting me finish the question.
Okay, you're frowning. Calm down.
Yeah,
So,
I'm frowning because you're
calm
not letting me
down,
finish the question.
calm down. So, very simply, can you just really briefly just run past
Yeah.
if this is when we talk about the will of God,
Okay, so
the general desire
my
of God
understanding is
or the purveyance of
Do you
God
mind-
very
okay,
quickly,
fine.
and then comment on the
My
Islamic view.
understanding of the Calvinist position, yeah, is that the will of God is so much emphasized that they have something called the elect. There are people
Okay, yeah.
people that God elects. They call it unconditional election or something. I think it's called unconditional election, yeah? Where,
I've looked
excuse me,
into
you don't know, but it's where
Well, you don't know either because you're guessing. But go ahead.
unconditional is tulip, TULIP. Yeah, each of the. What are you
Awesome.
laughing at? It's your doctrines. I'm not talking about mine.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well,
I don't know what you're
I
laughing
don't
at.
remember subscribing to the tulip doctrine, but go ahead. Go ahead.
It's a Christian doctrine. Yeah?
Well, it's an
Calvinism
acronym, but okay, go
Okay,
ahead.
no problem. But this is how they talk about
I'm
that.
aware. Just
Right.
just run
So
through it, man.
the idea is this.
Yeah.
Even Augustine, for example, in his book.
Okay.
What do you mean? Okay,
Just get to the point. I don't.
You're not letting
okay.
me finish the sentence.
Yo,
Just get to the point.
dude. Just get to the end, please.
The end point
I
is
don't
this.
need.
The end
Yeah,
point
thank
is,
you.
according to that school of thought, if God elects you to go to hell, you will go to hell. So much so that Augustine believed the following. He believed that if a child is not baptized, yeah, then they will go to hell, a baby.
That's a view.
Excuse me,
That's
it's a view, and it's a view that the Catholic Church held, yeah, up until quite recently.
I am not Catholic, so.
I know, but
okay.
Christianity has Protestantism, Calvinism, Catholicism, all that. You have to understand that. I'm talking about Christianity here. It's not
Well,
about you. I
no,
don't care
you're
about
talking
you.
about Catholicism.
You're talking about
Okay,
you,
go ahead.
your position. We're talking about the whole of Christianity.
Okay.
I'm saying if you look at the whole of Christianity, you have different positions. The idea that the will of God or the sovereignty of God is that which manifests and that he can decide who goes to heaven and hell from the beginning is something which is clear in Calvinist doctrine.
I would say that probably Calvinists would add the idea of foreknowledge to the equation. Not that they're being elected to distinctly go to
wrong.
hell.
That's wrong.
But
That's wrong.
I would imagine that they
That's
would
wrong.
add some of foreknowledge
That's
to
wrong.
it.
That's
So
wrong.
Calvinists
That's
have
wrong.
to admit that God does have
You don't know.
foreknowledge.
You said you don't know what God. Yes,
They'll
they do say that as well.
Yeah, okay, awesome, great. So I know
They
that
say that
much.
as well.
So, awesome, that's what I said. So
So why are you making this an Islamic issue?
No. Because
Why are you making this an Islamic issue?
according to your hadith, Allah
What do you mean?
simply
This is something.
No. The difference.
You don't know.
Allah writes
He doesn't know
or
what
sends the angels to write down
Yeah,
what a person would do,
Yeah.
and the sort of like the hard determinism is to such a degree
Wait a minute.
that somebody will be doing the deeds
you see, you don't know what
of
you're
the
talking about. You don't know
people
what
of paradise
With all due respect.
until
Yeah,
what
yeah.
is written for them
Okay.
overtakes
Okay.
them. So
So do you want me to respond?
let's just say, well, a moment. Let's just say, for example, that Allah said heaven, hell, heaven. You can do nothing to avert that, but go to where Allah told you to go to. So if He said hell for you,
That's not the position of Ahlul
no,
Sunnah.
that's what it says.
No, that's not the position of
That's what the Hadith says. So unless you want to contradict the Hadith,
No, let's go to the Hadith. The Hadith. Let me read it. Let me read it for you.
give him the number.
It's fine. I got it.
Give him the number.
It's Ibn Mas'ud's Hadith. It's mentioned Bukhari. Yeah. In that
Did you got the number for it?
There's different numbers depending on this. Number 4 and
Look it up.
It's number 4 Hadith and now is 40, right?
There you go.
So there you have. إن أحدكم ليعمل بعمل أهل الجنة حتى يسبق عليه الكتاب فيكون بينه وبينها إلا ذراعا.
I don't speak Arabic, my dude.
I don't care.
Just do you know it in English?
I'm going to say it in
English,
You are
please.
wasting my time.
Translates. Google
Okay,
Translate.
translate.
Go. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, man. Go ahead.
Okay,
Go
sir.
ahead. Go for it.
فيعمل بعمل أهل الجنة.
That ain't translating. That ain't translating.
No, listen.
English.
I know
If
you're
you-
getting triggered. فيعمل means he does.
English.
Are you letting me speak or not?
English.
He doesn't want to let me speak because he knows.
So
Deep down he knows what's happening.
you're gonna, yes, you're speaking Arabic, and I don't speak
Should we just
Arabic.
let him talk?
I don't speak English.
Should we just let him talk?
Yeah, no, listen, if you don't want to defend your position, that's fine. But ultimately, Muslims, you're gonna have to realize that you serve a God who will send you to hell for no apparent reason,
All right.
other than yeah, translate, or what?
So are you done?
You gonna translate?
Do you give up?
Are you gonna translate?
So do you give up?
Are you gonna translate?
If you talk over me for another minute, I'm gonna consider that.
Are
as
you gonna
capitulation.
translate,
Because
please?
you don't want me to talk, which means you give up.
I said very
You're throwing the
distinctly
towel.
on camera.
Your boy here
I
wanna throw the
said
towel for you.
go to
throwing
the
the white towel.
English
Definitely not.
and then
Definitely
talk
not.
about
He's
it.
Throw the
here.
white towel for him.
He's staying. We're staying here.
Throw the white towel for him.
Yo, English, go.
All right. So it says that he will do.
Oh, yo, look at him, man. Look at. Sorry, I got happy. Go ahead.
If he continues
Go ahead.
like this, you know it's capitulation.
Yo, my bad, man.
Capitulation.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead. I'm
All
proud of you, though. Please.
You finished?
All done.
So he will do the actions of the people of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Do means that the volition goes back to him. He's doing actions, right? So in other words, he's going to be doing certain actions which will legitimize for him to go to heaven or hell.
Okay.
So in other words, what you're proposing, which is that Allah is putting people into heaven and hell, is not what the hadith actually even says.
But you didn't get to the other parts.
What part of it is?
The part where it says that he will be a handspan from paradise.
I didn't mention that.
You didn't mention that.
Yeah, I said. So let me show
You said the first part only.
Get to the point.
Okay.
You said get to the point.
But the
Yes,
point,
I know this guy.
no, that wasn't the point. The point here is that they are
Do you
doing
want me
the
to translate the whole
deeds.
hadith?
They are just
Do you want me to translate
the
the whole
part
hadith?
where they are doing the hadiths. Sorry.
Which part would you like me to translate?
Absolutely, the part
Which
where
one
they
would you
are
like?
doing the deeds
Yeah.
until they are about a handspan
fine,
away,
let me translate
and then what is written for them overtakes them,
Yeah. Okay,
and they begin to do
would you
the
like
deeds
me-
of the opposite.
Fine.
There you go.
The translation of the hadith begins that one of you will be in your mother's womb for 40 days.
That's further up. Okay. Okay, fine, sure, go ahead.
This means he's giving up, buddy.
No, it doesn't.
This doesn't mean that.
That's-
No, it
that's-
doesn't mean
you- So hijab.
And you know
Okay,
it very well.
so you guys, if you've ever read the hadith, what's happening here is that hijab is going back up to the middle of the hadith and then reading it back
He
down.
doesn't want me to
This
even read
thi-
the text.
I mean, go for it in English.
What do you want? What do you want?
Okay, explain to these people why Allah is overturning people's destinies so that they will then perform actions that are in tune
Can I
with
ask you a
His
question?
decree for where they will go.
The Quran is very. I told you already. There's two things going on at the same time. We believe وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. We started off with that, which means that you cannot will except that Allah wills, right? Which that verse itself, it affirms two wills. The will of God, which is the overarching will, which all the wills go back to, and the will of the human being that can do something, right? وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ. You have a will, God has a will. Allah's will is overreaching.
Okay.
That's what we believe.
So
Excuse me,
why
excuse
is the will of God such?
So let
Or
me-
at least Allah, sorry,
Are you
such.
going to let me finish?
Okay, go ahead.
So we are compatibilists. You know full well, actually I'm not sure that you do, but let's just say that there are three schools of thought in Western philosophy, in Greek philosophy, in Christianity, and in Islam. All of these three schools are very similar, which is that you've got compatibilism, determinism, and you have libertarianism, right? Libertarian free will. If you want to make this very easy, in Islam, just to give you this kind of, in Islam you have three schools of thought which are similar to in Christianity. Make it easy. I'm explaining it, so please let me finish. In Islam, you have a school of thought called the Qadariyah, which are also Mu'tazila.
So the
which are similar
determinists, okay?
which are the most similar to the Armenianists, which means that they emphasize the will of human being and de-emphasize the will of God and the sovereignty of God.
Okay.
The middle one, we believe is Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the compatibilists, and the one which is quite similar to Calvinism and from our side is the Jabriyah, the ones who emphasize the sovereignty of God above and beyond the will of the human being. We, as my position as Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, is that I affirm two things in a way which the mechanisms human beings have not been able to decipher the way it works. We affirm the will of human being and the will of God. We affirm that God gives us free will to conduct certain things. That's the position of the Christian majority and the Muslim majority. We don't actually differ on this. So
However,
you're bringing this to
that
the table.
hadith says otherwise.
I know, but it doesn't say what you're saying. It's just like
It literally does. Okay, wait. Let me get it out.
Okay, the word amala in Arabic means he does. Okay, So if it says that,
And he here is the human, correct?
yeah.
What number is it?
I have no idea. Sorry. I'll get it.
He does يعمل بعمل أهل الجنة فيدخلها. He does by the amal. He does with the actions of the people of Jannah, which
Okay.
means that doesn't disqualify or doesn't distinguish doesn't diminish from the will of human being.
Now, can
So
you get to
what
the
you're
part
what you're proposing
where
is that we don't believe in
Allah?
the human being.
Can you get to the part?
Allah says, فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ.
Okay.
Whoever wills can
You
believe.
keep only
and whoever
saying the
wills
first
can
part.
disbelieve.
Can you get to the second part where Allah will then overturn them based upon what's written for them, and
Yeah.
if they were
No, but
determined,
it's بعملي. The reason why they're going to hell is because of their actions.
but it literally says in the English, what is written
No, it
for
says
them
in
will
English-
overtake them.
No. It says that but it says that what they will do with the actions of the people of heaven, they will do with the actions of the people of hell. In the two parts of the hadith.
Yes, but okay.
So they're doing actions that are going to go to hellfire.
No. Because initially,
How's that different percentage?
that person was doing the
How's that
deeds
different
of the
percentage?
people of paradise. Then what Allah wrote for him overtook him, and he began to do the actions of the people of the hellfire. So
you're
he
not-
had no ability
Yeah.
of his own to simply choose to follow
you're
Allah
not-
all the
by the
way.
way, with
Allah
respect, you're not representing the
Allah
Christian
deemed that he was going to go to hell, and as a result,
Yeah.
regardless of whether or not he is following the deen or not, he will end up in hell.
No, that's not how it
To-
works.
to
No one says it like that.
to such an extent
believes that.
even if the person was a monk
Now
or
you're
a
making
priest
things
or
up.
an
Now you're
imam,
making things up.
as long as Allah has deemed for them to go to
Now
hell,
you're making things up.
whatever is written for them will overtake them to a degree where
Yeah.
they will then abandon their actions of piety and then go to the actions of hellfire.
No one in the
That's
school
what the
of,
hadith
excuse
says.
me, but no school of thought in Islamic history of 1,400 years has ever articulated it the way you said it.
Well, that's the plain reading
No,
of it.
but
So
it's not a plain reading. That's
it
your
literally
reading.
is.
No, actually, that's your reading. And
It
you can't even read
literally
your
is
own
the
text.
reading.
You don't even know your own doctrines. That's number one. Number two is this.
Hey.
Let me ask you a question. Can I
You read it
can I ask you a
and you're
question?
afraid to talk about
Let's-
that last part.
let's-
But again,
Look.
before
Let
you
me ask you a
are
question.
you moving
Can I
on
ask
or
you-
are we still talking about that same stuff?
Will. The will of God.
Okay, the will of God
Can
in
I say-
relation
can I ask you a
to
question?
your salvation, correct?
Yeah, fine. Let me ask you a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, we believe that you have God's will, then you have the human being's will, right? And we believe that the God's will and the human being's will, they synchronize in a certain manner. There's a compatibilism that happens between them. Now, I want to know from a Christian perspective, because this is why I think the difference actually really is. The biggest difference between Christian and Muslim on the issue of free will and determinism is not actually on what he's talking about. It's because we believe in very similar stuff on this and we have very similar schools of thought. It's actually the following. The question is, how can you have three ultimate wills? You have the will of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now I want to know, how does that circle?
Oh, wait, so you're pivoting now. Okay,
I'm not,
okay.
because it's the
All
will
right,
of God.
all right. No, hold on there.
believe in God's
Hold
will.
on now, hold on.
So let me finish.
Hold on.
Please.
No.
Please. You don't want to go
No,
there? Oh, you don't want to
wait.
go there?
You're about to pivot. So,
you don't wanna
before
go
we
there?
do pivots,
You don't want to go there?
before we do pivots,
Oh, okay.
you're gonna have to concede something.
So you don't want to go there?
That your God, unfortunately, acts as a moral monster in that he is not willing to simply let people follow him of their own volition. Instead, he must determine where they will go and then do it such a degree that even if they're performing the actions that will result in the negation occurring, he will force them to make sure that they are acting in a compatible way with his overall will. Do you agree or disagree?
Of course we don't agree with that.
Oh, really?
We don't agree.
So,
You're wasting
according...
my time with this now.
No.
You're wasting my time with this.
No.
Listen, I already
Because
explained
you're about
to
to
you.
pivot, okay? But
Yeah, of
before
course,
you
we
do,
don't need to go to
consider
the
move.
Trinity. You don't like it. Because that's where the Quranic argument
If you
is.
want to go
If you
to
wanna
a
deal with it,
Trinity,
excuse me.
I can give you a Trinity as well.
Okay, good. Now we're talking. Now that's where the
No,
privilege comes
but
in.
before
That's
we
where
go
your
there,
courageousness
before
comes
we
in.
go there,
Now he's going to be proud of you.
I hope so.
Proud of him anyway.
Hey, man.
Okay.
Yo, before we go there, you're going to have to concede something.
He's going to be proud of
That
you.
your God's a moral monster. I'm waiting.
You can believe that if you like.
No.
problem. Let's
I'm
move on.
waiting.
What do you mean?
I'm waiting.
What do you mean?
Concede that, please, and then we can
So
move on.
you're saying that the only way you're going to talk about the Trinity is if I say something blasphemous about my own God?
I see.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So that's not capitulation. That's not cowardice. That's not you
Okay.
running away. That's not him going to throw the white towel for you.
Okay, well, again,
gonna throw the white towel?
everyone has seen
You wanna
here
run away?
that Muhammad was not willing
You want to run away?
to actually partake in the discussion,
wanna run away?
and then he ran away to a whole different point
I'm asking the same
because
question
he
about
couldn't
Will.
deal.
I'm asking about Christian
He
and
couldn't
Muslim
deal
differences.
with the idea that his
your
God
name?
makes
What's your
people.
name?
My name is David. He
David.
couldn't deal with the idea that his God
What's your
causes people to go to hell.
Huh? Mark.
Okay, but that's just fine. Well, move on then.
Right,
What you talking
David,
about?
listen to me very carefully.
Let me hear more.
As I've said to you before,
Okay.
and you haven't studied this, I have. So I'm telling you from someone
Oh,
who
really?
has. Yeah.
Okay.
So
alright.
I'm telling you from the perspective of someone who has. Your religion, I've studied more than you have.
Really?
Of course I have.
Okay.
I'm accredited from your
Awesome.
university here in the university.
I can't wait to ask
I've done
some
it.
questions.
Where have you studied?
Sorry?
Your religion. Where have you studied it?
Still my religion?
Yeah, where have you studied
Oh,
your
no,
religion?
don't worry. I
No, where have you
you
studied your religion?
Hey, man, churches.
Churches.
Yeah, man.
Which one?
That's what we do there.
Which one?
You want to come over? It's the Angel Church. Let's go over there next
Yeah,
Sunday.
and it's just sermons you go to?
Hey, man.
Have you been accredited with anything? Have you been accredited with anything?
I'm accredited by the Holy Spirit.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. You got that
brilliant.
one?
Okay.
You got that one?
Yeah.
No.
Okay,
Oh, you do?
let's
So
move on.
you're
Let's move on.
baptized?
Let's
So
move on.
you're baptized?
I'm baptized.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
I'm
Awesome,
baptized.
man. Good for you.
Okay,
I think that's potentially short, but
let's
that's
move
fine.
on.
Go
Let's
ahead.
move on.
All right.
Let's move on. Let's waste my time. So you don't know.
Hey, man. Like,
so
listen,
you don't,
I ain't wasting
the issue-
anything.
Okay,
So
let me ask you a question.
let me hear.
We the main difference I'm postulating between
Okay.
Islam and Christianity on the question of free will and determinism,
Okay.
and the question of the will of God is actually to do with the Trinity. So much so that
I bet.
Of course it is. I mean, you know it, and I do. The Quran has verses explicit that are actually polemicizing against this idea of the Trinity and the will.
I think the Quran says that Christians believe in one God, but okay, that's fine.
Where does it say that actually?
Surah 29:46.
What does it say? Christians of today.
It tells
worship one God.
the Muslims to talk to the Christians in the best of ways,
Yeah.
and
وَلَا
to say to
تُجَادِلُوا أَهْلَ
them
الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي
that,
أَحْسَنُ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا.
and them have one God.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's not what it's saying.
So
that
is that what you're doing to me right now? Out of curiosity,
No.
is
So
this the best of ways? Oh, okay, all
the
right.
ayah says, وَلَا تُجَادِلُوا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ.
Just do the English, please,
I'm
man.
not gonna do what you say.
Just skip it,
I'm
man.
not gonna do what you say.
I am not Arabic.
I don't care.
Then there's no point in you
If you don't
giving
like
me
it,
to give
you
the
can
Arabic.
leave. If you don't like it, you can leave.
All I'm saying is
can leave.
you
You can
tend
say
to.
American, you can hold his hand,
I don't
you
like
can go.
using the word a lot, but you tend to waffle a little bit.
Okay, yeah,
You
yeah.
talk for like twice as long as you should.
Okay.
Just get to the point.
Thank you for your critique.
That's all.
Thank you for your critique.
So please, English,
If
please
I
go,
say
go,
in
go for
English,
it.
Hebrew, and Aramaic, I'll do it.
Just get to the English
No, I
because
don't want to.
I don't speak a different
I
language.
don't care.
If you want to drive from a point, just do
Do
it.
you understand what I'm saying? I don't care about your preferences.
And you know why?
I'm not here to
wait,
serve
wait,
you.
wait.
I'm not here to serve
Do
you.
you know why I got
I'm not here to
that?
serve you.
Because you said it in English. So please,
I don't
just
care.
say it in English
No, I'm not
first,
gonna.
and then it'll be better, all right?
Listen, you have to understand something. I'm speaking to tens of thousands of people across the world, and you're not important compared to them.
Oh,
I'm speaking
so
through you.
you're
I'm not really
speaking to
important. You're
people
not important.
who speak
Mark is not
English,
important either.
but only Arabic when you
two are
want to
not
quote
important.
Hadith and
You're not
Quran.
important to me.
You're speaking to
You're not
people
important to
who
me.
speak English fluently,
understand this
but
point?
only want to hear
You're not-
Arabic
you're not
when it
important.
comes to the Quran and Hadith.
Because you
is
think
that what you're
important.
doing?
I know you
You
think
don't
you're
wait to hear
important.
the
Is that what you're
translation.
doing?
Not important.
Is
You're
that
not
what
special.
you're doing?
Your preferences are not going to be respected.
If we're having a conversation,
preferences are not
just
respected.
go to the end and
No, I'm
do
not
the
gonna
English.
do it.
That's all.
I'm not going to do this.
I mean, listen,
No,
you're
I'm
wasting
not gonna-
time then.
You're wasting my time. Who are you?
No, you're wasting
Who are
my
you?
time because you're saying
You're a
everything
person
twice.
that goes to the church.
Imagine if I
and
said
hasn't
things
got any
twice to
accreditation.
you.
You're unworthy opponent, really.
What-
You're lucky that I'm speaking to you right now.
Well, you came to me. That's
You know,
what I'm saying.
But you're lucky.
So,
It doesn't stop the fact that
listen,
you're lucky.
all
You
you're
hit the
doing,
jackpot.
is wasting
You
my
hit it.
time
You know,
by
what
double
time?
speaking.
What would you be doing?
By double
What would you be
talking
doing?
to somebody
Tell
about
me
the
what-
gospel instead.
Mark.
Okay? No, don't worry. Mark already believes over here.
Tell-
Okay.
Mark, tell the
However,
people
Have the
how-
conversation.
focus
Stop
on
playing to the
me.
crowd. Stop playing to the crowd.
Focus
Have the
on me.
conversation.
You're
Focus
running.
on me.
You're slyly running.
I'm not
Dude.
running.
You're
I'm
running
asking
a
a
little
question.
Focus
You
on
are
me.
starting to
Okay, let me
run.
ask you a question then. Let me ask you a
Get
question.
to the end of your
My question
ayah
is-
or whatever,
Mark,
and
okay,
just
fine.
do it in
Let's
English,
get straight.
please. Go for it.
Let me ask you a question. You've got three wills. The will of the Father, the will of the Son, and the will of the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
All right. So now I understand that if God wills something, let's say for example that tree to be green. If the Father wills for that tree to be green, the Son wills for the tree to be blue, and the Holy Spirit wills for the tree to be red.
Okay.
What color is the tree going to be?
So you're going that dumb Islamic logic.
Answer it.
Suggesting that so the Quran says it's in some ayah. He'll probably say it in Arabic or whatever if he knows the one. But it says that if
Answer
there
the
were
question.
more than one God, that they would fight each other for supremacy or whatever. When it comes to the Father, Son, and Spirit, all three share completely in the divine essence.
What color would the
So,
tree be?
so they don't will things that are different from one another. They are three distinct minds, but because they are all knowing, all powerful, and all the other
What color
omnis,
would the tree be?
they all will things similarly.
So what color would the tree be?
So they don't will things contrary to one another.
Okay, so let me
so
ask you,
if
can
the
they?
Father,
Can they?
well, no, they would not because
No, I'm not asking would they.
they
I'm saying
would
can they?
not because they
Can
all agree on things.
No, but my question is, can they?
They would not.
No, I'm not saying would they. See how he's doing
You
this?
said can
Is
they,
it
I
is it
said they
logically-
would not.
I'm not saying would. Would and can are two different words.
That would imply that within
Do you understand English
that
language?
would imply that
Someone
within
get a
the
dictionary.
again.
No, again.
What you're saying,
they or not?
what you're saying would imply that the three persons disagree with each other.
I'm
They
asking
do
a que-
not,
No, I'm not-
because
no,
the
I'm not playing
doxology that we
Can
always
they-
see. Listen.
Oh, he's getting angry. right?
Listen to this part. The doxology that we always see is one where the Father wills
get the towel
something,
ready.
it is carried out by the Son in the power
the
of the
white towel
Spirit.
ready, Mark.
They don't will three different things. For example, if I was to compare this to your Allah, right? Do you hold to the idea of Allah?
No, don't ask me a question.
No,
answer
no,
mine.
no, no, no,
Answer
no,
my
no,
question.
because
Answer my question.
don't yell. With these Muslims,
Don't run away.
Like you, for example, I'm gonna stand right here. You go
Answer
run
my
out here.
question. What would-
At
what
the end,
colour would the tree
at
be?
the end, I won't leave. You
What
leave.
colour would the be-
So
what would the colour would the tree
ultimately, it's very similar to this.
What colour would the tree
Like
be?
I told you, the three wills align perfectly
Can they
throughout
differ?
all things.
Can they differ?
They do not differ.
No, not do they.
So,
Can they differ?
when
Yes or
it
no?
comes
Can they
to
differ?
your
Yes or no?
Allah, for example,
Can they differ? Yes or no?
if some
Can they
Muslims
differ,
might
yes or
hold
no?
to the idea that
Can
he
they
has
differ, yes or
two
no?
hands.
Can they
So,
differ, yes or
for
no?
example, can
Can they
Allah's
differ, yes or
hands
no?
will
look
to
at
hold
the
up two
running.
different fingers at once?
Look at the running. Get that towel ready, boy.
Again, I'm
Can
waiting.
they differ?
And I said they do
Mark,
not.
get it ready.
Again, I'm saying they did not.
White towel.
So, when it comes to your Allah,
Can they differ?
can
Yes
Allah's
or
two
no?
right hands differ?
Can they differ? Yes
Can
or no?
Allah's
He's
two
asking
right
the
hands
question
differ?
with a question.
No, I answered the question.
Can I ask you the
I
question
said they
with
do
a
not.
question?
Now,
Can they
in
differ, yes or
your
no?
case,
Can they differ,
does
yes or
Allah's
no?
two right hands differ?
Can
I
they
am
differ?
listening.
Can the
I have
Father's
told you.
will differ from the
I
Son's
told you
will?
it does
Yes or
not.
no?
Now,
Can
does
they differ,
Allah's
yes or
right
no?
hand
Can
differ from
they
his other
differ?
right hands?
He's running.
I'm waiting for you.
Everyone can see.
I'm standing still.
Everyone- Yeah, can you see
So,
it, yes or no?
I mean, I know he wears
Can you say
glasses,
yes or no?
but unfortunately for him,
Can
I'm
you
right
say
here.
yes or no?
I'm right here.
Is he running away from the question?
I'm waiting.
Can the will of the
I
Father
told you the
differ from the
answer.
Son?
Now I'm waiting
Can
for
they
you.
differ, yes
When
or
it
no?
comes to
Yes or
Allah,
no?
can his two right
Did he
hands
answer the
differ?
question? Did he say yes or no?
Can his two right hands differ? I'm waiting.
Can they differ? Yes or no?
Bro, if
I
he
told you
answers
they
his
don't,
belief
so I'm
crumbles, that's
waiting.
fine.
Can they differ? Yes or
They
no?
don't.
Can
No,
they
your
differ,
turn.
yes or
They
no?
don't. It's not your turn.
Can they differ? Yes
They
or no?
don't. Your turn.
Can-
They
no,
don't.
No,
Your
I'm
turn.
not asking
I'm
don't.
waiting.
I'm saying can.
They do
Logically
not.
possibly. I'm not saying do.
I am
I'm not
saying
saying
they do not.
Do is a statement of declarative. It's a declarative statement. I'm saying can. Is it
Or
logically
performative
possible?
action. They do not.
I'm not saying that do or not. I'm saying can. C-A-N.
If all
Can
three
they
persons
differ,
share,
yes or no?
if all
Can they
three
differ, yes or
persons
no?
share
Mark, can they
completely
differ?
in the divine essence,
Don't know, huh?
that would mean that
Get
they
the white towel
all
ready,
share
Tom.
exactly
Get the
what
white
it
towel
means to
ready.
be God. And
Do you
God
give
does
up?
not differ
Do you
amongst
give
God,
up?
so that would mean
David,
that the
do you
three
give up?
persons
Do
only
you give
hold
up?
to the exact same
Do you
will
say
for
mercy?
any action.
Say mercy.
Now, when it comes to
Say
you,
mercy.
does your Allah
Say mercy.
with his two right
Say
hands,
mercy.
can the two right
Say
hands
mercy.
disagree with each other?
Say mercy.
So, for example, can
Say
one
I
right
quit.
hand will to hold up 5
Tap
fingers
out.
and the other to hold up 6
Tap
fingers,
out.
and
Can
then
they
can do
differ,
something?
yes or no?
I am waiting, Mohammed. Can one right hand will to hold 4 fingers
Can they
and
differ,
the
yes
other
or
one
no?
will to hold 5 and it's
Answer
agreed?
it.
I'm waiting for you, Mohammed.
What do you mean? Can they differ? Yes or no?
I'm waiting
I've
for
got a
you.
question.
Do your two right
Answer
hands
mine, I'll ask
differ?
yours.
I answered it 2
they-
times
can-
now.
no, you haven't.
I answered
You
it.
have not answered.
I
Can
answered
they
it.
differ?
Your turn.
Can they differ?
Mohammed,
Can they differ?
don't
Can
run
the
from
wills differ?
defending your God.
Can they differ?
With his two right hands,
Do you give up?
is he capable
Do
of
you
holding
give
4
up?
fingers on one hand
you
and
give
5
up?
on the other hand
The people
when
can
one
see.
agrees to hold up 4 and the other to hold up 5? Over here, over here. I'm waiting.
Don't run. Don't throw the towel yet.
What are you doing? Oh my goodness. All right, well, unless Allah can help you, I don't think He can. Well, yes, you're looking at your hands. Now, Allah has 2 right hands, okay? So, can one hand choose to hold up 5 fingers and the other one choose to hold up 4 fingers and one to do the other one? I'm waiting.
Differ.
I'm waiting.
Can they differ?
Can Allah's
Can they
hands
differ?
differ? Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
Can Allah's hands differ?
I'm waiting, Muhammad. Can Allah's
Can they
hands
differ,
differ?
sir?
I'm waiting.
Answer my question.
I already answered it.
Who
Now
asked
I'm waiting
question
for
first?
you.
Who asked question
And
first?
I answered it
Who
twice.
asked question
Everyone
first?
on camera.
I will
You
answer
can
your
see
question.
that with this dude.
I'll answer your
I
question.
answered the question twice.
I'll answer your
I'm
question.
waiting. And
No,
please,
answer mine.
in English,
Can they differ,
no, in
yes or
Arabic.
no? Can they
In
differ?
English, please, in Arabic, okay?
Can the wills differ? Yes or no?
I am
Is it logically
waiting.
possible
I
or
already
not?
told you.
Yes or no?
I
Yes, can
already
they?
told
Please
you.
tell us, yeah.
Now I am
What is
waiting
it?
for you
Can
to
they
answer
or
your
not?
question.
Give up.
Answer
Give
mine.
up.
Can Allah's right
Give
hands
up.
differ?
Give up, boy.
Can Allah's
Give up,
right
it's done.
hands differ?
It's over.
Are you losing your voice?
It's over.
Are you losing
Are
your
you
voice?
losing your face, boy?
Hell no.
Are
Hell
you
no.
losing your face?
So, can Allah's
differ?
right hands differ? Can Allah's one right hand will to hold up 4 fingers? and the other will hold up 5, but then they disagree with each other. Can you do it? Yes. So imagine your right hand, but 2 of them. Can they do it?
Can they differ?
Yep. Can they?
Can they differ?
Can Allah's right
Can
hand
they differ?
differ?
Yes,
I'm waiting.
Yes. Can they differ? Is that what you
Can
said?
Allah's right hands differ?
Can the will of the Father
I answered the
differ from
question,
the will of the
but
Son?
you keep asking the same
Can
one
they
over and
differ?
over again, so
Is
you
it
didn't hear
logically
me.
possible or
I
not?
am waiting
Is it
for you.
logically possible?
Can Allah's right hands differ?
He doesn't answer.
I answered your question, but you're the one who isn't answering.
Are you done, yeah?
Can Allah's
here?
right hands
Mark.
differ?
You rule it as a
Yo,
Don't run. Come on.
I'm
Come on.
waiting.
Don't run.
Do Allah's right hands differ?
Don't run. Come on.
Don't run, man.
Muslims, if you can help this guy, can you help him understand if Allah's
Don't
right
answer
hands
this
can
question.
differ
We're
or
asking the
not?
question. We're talking about
Simple.
will.
He needs help.
Why is it talking about hands?
He needs help.
Why is it talking about hands?
Because Allah's hands have will, right?
We're talking about will.
Because Allah's one.
No, no.
So that means his
No one
hands
said anything
are
like
one
that.
with
No
him,
one
right?
said anything like that.
Really?
Yeah,
So
yeah, no one said.
Allah's,
Now, going back to the question.
Allah's
Can
hands
the will
part
differ,
of
yes or
him.
no? Can-
Allah's hands. Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
So why
Can
did
God-
Muhammad say
Go back to
that
the
I
question.
saw
Can
my
the will
Lord
differ, yes or
and
no?
both his hands are right?
Excuse me.
Why did he say that?
Can the will
Why
differ,
did
yes or no?
Muhammad say that?
So you go to another question.
Why did Muhammad say that
Diversion.
both the hands were right?
Diversion. You give up.
Why did
Give up.
if you don't believe
Give
in it,
up. Okay,
why
I'm
did
gonna give
Muhammad
you
say
3 more
that
chances.
both hands were right? Oh no, don't run. Don't run. Yo, Siraj,
You got 3
Siraj,
questions.
Siraj, come help
if
him.
you don't-
Siraj, come help him.
3 chances.
Okay.
If you don't answer my question about will,
Mohammed,
this is a no
don't
contest.
go
I'm not
anywhere.
fast.
Mohammed, don't go anywhere.
Okay,
Because
you
if
ask
you
my
go
question.
anywhere, I'm going to say you ran. So stay
I
right
don't care
here.
what you say.
Okay.
Who cares about your opinion, boy?
Again,
Who cares about
if
your
you
opinion?
run, I'm going to say you
Who
ran.
cares
And
about
I'm
your
going to make.
opinion?
Huh? I asked the question.
Can
No,
the
I'll
wills
give it to you.
differ, yes or
But
no?
why can't he do it?
Okay, I'm asking. Can the
Again,
wills differ, yes or no?
can hands differ? Yes or no?
What?
I already
What
asked
was
you.
that?
Can hands differ?
Can
No.
the wills differ, yes or no?
Can hands
Can the wills
differ?
differ,
Can
yes or
hands
no?
differ?
What do you mean can the
Can
hands
his
differ?
hands
Okay,
differ?
if I answer your question, you answer mine.
I already answered you. So actually,
no, you
I
didn't.
have
No, you
even more questions for you
answer my question.
regarding
You
Allah.
said they do.
So,
You didn't answer my
again,
question. If I
do
answer
his
your-
hands
excuse me.
differ?
Can I ask you a question?
I'm
If
waiting.
I answer yours,
Do
would
his
you answer
hands
mine?
differ?
If I answer mine,
I
would you
already
answer
answered mine.
mine? If I answer yours, would you answer mine?
I already
No, you
answered.
didn't.
So please, when you
What's
answer,
your answer?
answer in English, not Arabic.
What's your answer?
I already answered
Can
it.
they differ, yes or no?
I already answered it. The
What's your-
video
what's
heard
your-
me. You
what's your
didn't hear
answer?
me.
You said do.
Again,
They do differ.
I am
They would. You said
waiting.
would. You
I
said
am
can.
waiting.
Can they differ, yes or no?
Please do
Can
his
they
hands differ.
He's done. He's
Okay,
done. He's
so
done.
Muhammad Hijab is going to run away because unfortunately for him, he can't defend his God. So all he can do is like stretch or whatever, and that doesn't really do anything. So ultimately, my Muslims, here is the issue. Is it possible for your Allah's hands to will to hold up 5 hands and the other one hold up 4 fingers and they disagree with each other? Is it the case that Allah cannot decide if he wants to hold up 1 hand or 2 hands at the same time? So ultimately, you have to then decide, does Allah will for his hand to hold up 4 fingers and 5 at the same time or not? That's the problem. So he can't answer it because unfortunately he has no idea about Allah. So ultimately, when it comes, however, to the, I answered it myself. So, sorry? The word of Allah. An Ashari. Hey, he's an Ashari, huh? Okay, well, look, Muslims all around the world, or whoever watches this, understand very simply. Allah is not a God you should follow. Instead, come to the actual God, the triune God, the Father, Son, and the Spirit. The ones who by which can grant you salvation, not some deformed God with 2 right hands. Ultimately, that's the case. Is this the best you have?
Yes.
Really? Then Muhammad, run away, okay? I'll catch you later. But next time I see you, Muhammad, I'm going to ask you about these 2 right hands. There you go. Go ahead. All right. Well, it's that simple. Yo. Hey, man, listen, like, sure thing. Where's the mic? It's here somewhere.
You ruined that whole debate, man. Why didn't you just answer the
I answered it 3 times. So, don't worry, come over here.
He knew what was coming.
All right. So, I mean, I was talking to a couple of guys, one Shia guy, about slavery for some odd reason. And then after talking with him, he was getting coached by that other guy over there, Muhammad. So, Muhammad then came in and wanted to talk to me about the will of God. We spoke about the will of God, but ultimately he couldn't reconcile the idea that his God, unfortunately, is so perverse that he actively wills for people to go to hell. To the extent by which, even if they are performing the actions that will not land them in hell, what Allah has written for them, or better, send the angels to write for them, will overtake them and cause them to do the actions of the people of hellfire so that they will go to hellfire. contrasting with the idea of the Christian God, who wants above all things that you prosper and be in good health. However, we as Christians, or people in general, have the capacity to negate the idea of what God wants for us, and as a result cannot attain salvation with Him. In Islam, Allah is so insecure that He has to ensure that you go to heaven or hell by making sure that whatever action you're committing will be overridden in order to account for His own will. Lastly, he asked me a question about the three wills of the three persons of the Trinity. He asked me that can they will different things? I told them no, that essentially they all agree. The three agree in that they all partake in the divine essence. So exactly what it takes to be God, meaning that when the Father wills something, it is carried out by the Son as He agrees, with the power of the Spirit as He also agrees. They don't agree in different things. What he is saying comes from the dumb Islamic idea of a verse in the Quran where it mentions that if there were more than one God, they would fight each other for supremacy. Again, a dumb idea, because surely if there was more than one God, then that would mean that either the two or three or multiple were not omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, but instead they were all a bunch of demigods. So I then asked him as a retort, Allah has two right hands. If He wills for one hand to hold up 4 fingers and the other to hold up 5 fingers, can they disagree with each other, or will they only follow what Allah tells them? So can His right hand, because don't forget, Allah is one God, so one God with 2 right hands, can one hand will to hold up 4 fingers and the other hold up 5 and they disagree? And he wouldn't answer because he's afraid. He told me I would run, but I knew he would run because with Muhammad, as I've seen him in the past, whenever he's losing an argument, he will resort to doing insults and flexing his arms. So ultimately, when you see him again, ask him about the divine will of Allah's hands. There you go. But ultimately, I told the Muslim, to come to Christ. So we'll see what happens. All right, thank you. Amen. Yeah.